So without further ado, guys, I welcome you all, the tight-knit crew, the friendly crowd, however you want to refer to yourselves. We're here for the ZOTAC Cup. And I know, I shouldn't be casting. You guys need to shut up, alright? I get it, I'm sick. I'll get better eventually, but there's too many good games, like seriously. It's not even the fact, well, I mean, let's be honest, it's partially in the fact that there's a lot of Axiom players competing, but these are like the players who have come out of the woodwork. You got Hyun, Tefl, freaking Apocalypse, which we're casting right now, Impact, for goodness sake, and many others. I'm looking forward to how this boils down. My only regret is that we can't cast every single game. So without further ado, and no more time filling, in the bottom right corner of Heavy Rain, in this first game that we're casting today, but a fresh best of 3 in the quarterfinals, it is the Red Terran player from IVD Gaming, Apocalypse. His opponent in the upper left. I've only had the pleasure of casting him before in the Acer Team Story Cup, but I get to see him for once, appearing in a North American tournament for the ZOTAC NA Cup. It is, from Axiom, the blue Zerg player, Impact. Now, I do feel a little bit for Apocalypse. I mean, like, if you guys don't know either of these players right off the bat, I gotta tell you, Apocalypse is kind of the underdog coming into this. But only just barely. Impact was able to take on players like Tasia. Oh, what if the upgrade tab open? Sorry. Able to take on players like Tasia and many other fine Terrans when it came to the Acer Team Story Cup and prove his worth to Axiom over there. Apocalypse is not a bad player. He unfortunately didn't get to play in any sort of team league for referencing in that, but he's done well in the Red Bull qualifiers, even though he didn't actually qualify due to citizenship issues. He performs very well in these ZOTAC Cups all the time. He's one of the few people who have multiple wins. For Impact, this will not be an easy series, but again, Apocalypse is going to have to really work hard to make sure that this goes safely now. Impact is checking the large distance behind the mineral lines. There's a player from, oh gosh, Cop, not Cop, K-A-U-P, but like K-O-P from Samsung Galaxy that we saw a few weeks back, and he used the, not on Heavy Rain, I believe it was Belshire, but the huge distance behind the mineral lines actually proxy Rax's back here. I'm not at all surprised that Impact checked that. What I am a little shocked about, though, is Apocalypse's choice to go for the second barracks. Not that this is a bad build, but this is a build that is seen less often. And because Impact is not drone scouting, he may not see this initially. This is going to be for 2 Reapers at a time. This can apply a lot of pressure and really bully a Zerg player down. Now by doing this, and not having a second gas, because you want to expand eventually, you're kind of giving up your factory tech, which means you're not going to have Hellions out in any quick amount of time, you're not going to have map control, you're not going to kill creep teams, and most importantly, you're not going to fry drones alive in the mineral lines. But that's okay, because the point is the Reapers are meant to snowball out of control. If you guys have never seen the units go toe-to-toe before, 1 Reaper, we've seen it. You can trade versus anything, combat drugs kicks in, Bob's your uncle, you're good to go for round 2. But it can't really kill Queens. 2 Reapers can kind of dance with Queens and eventually kill 1, but again, it takes a lot of control, and you gotta make sure you don't mess it up. But 3 Reapers takes down a Queen, no problemo. Forget Lings for a second, because they are going to be slow off of creep. Queens are really the one big threat to shutting Reapers down, and this is not 1 Reaper for a scout, and the Overlord, I believe from Impact, did confirm that, so we'll probably see more than 6 Lings come out. I wouldn't be surprised if this went up a little bit higher. Yeah, there you go, 8, 10 tends to be that relative number if you don't know exactly how much is coming, but he knows it's a 2 racks. Now this isn't a proxy 2 racks, remind you when I say 2 racks, don't jump your horses there. But this is definitely a big threat here for Impact. Now he's stopped mining at 100 exactly with precision. He's going for that metabolic boost. Almost gets drone kill. Build cancel does go down. Second and third Reaper are on the way, and the Queen just pops. So this first Reaper has to be careful. It's going to be low whenever it engages. Combat drugs won't kick in immediately, but a bit of dancing around the cliff, comes back in for round 2 in just a moment's time, can certainly start taking on Queens with that third Reaper. Now, you do note that Apocalypse did not go past this. He's making Marines now, he's getting a command center, and he's playing defensively. Like I said, you only need about 3 to really kill a Queen. Does have to be incredibly careful here, though. First blood on one of those Lings, and of course one of these Reapers was almost the, almost did go down. Still waiting for combat drugs to fully kick in. There we go, starting to heal up a little bit. This other Reaper is, of course, dangerously low. The power of this push, by the way, is just immediately killed if you lose one of these Reapers. The idea is you need to keep all 3 alive and dance around effectively. Now, it looks like back at home, the Marines that did pop out were not enough to deal with the initial Link push here. I guess I missed that while that was going on, so focus on the other base. Yeah, 2 Marines did die there. And the command center, it's been halted. It's not been canceled, and it won't be canceled, but a small delay here initially. But this second wave of Links might have something to say. Reapers, of course, on the high ground. It's not like Apocalypse is going to lose his base, but he's probably going to have to cancel his command center this time. First time he got away with it. Oh god, land that barracks. Get that reactor down right freaking now, because if that wall breaks, A little bit scary. Might still be able to hold the command center. Actually, you know, I said he would have to cancel it, but with the Reapers pushing out of the base like this, may be able to pick up just enough lanes. Yeah, drives Impact out of the base, and Apocalypse can try bringing another SCV down. Of course, his depot is raised. Third command center coming on in base. A lot of this is, of course, standard timing, but he has to get this one down because the natural base has been just delayed, not denied, but delayed for so long. For Impact, though, he's like, all right, you know what? I did a bit of aggression and counterattacked a bit. I got a drone lead. He might not know exactly how much, but he knows his opponent's on one base still, so his production can't be that high, and he's taking his own third. So Impact's setting himself up quite nicely here. And playing to the strengths of the map or the weaknesses of the map, depending on your point of view. Ooh, actually, hang on. What am I in? Not going to get the burrow in time. The point I was going to make, though, about the map thing is third base is difficult for a Terran player, no matter how you look at it. For a Zerg player, it's the same amount of exposed, and it's got the danger of cliff here for drops to be really abusive, but it's kind of... StarCraft 2's evolved to this point where Zerg players, they don't struggle with the drops as much. They get Mutalisks out, they incorporate them into their builds a lot more than they used to. For Terran players, you can, in a worst-case scenario, put a planetary fortress down here, but you never want to. You always want that third command center to be an orbital when available. And looks like Apocalypse is going to finally start catching up on his economy here just a tad. Did have to kind of delay his barracks production. Typically, you'd want to be able to put down like 5 or more racks at any given point. You know, just have those resources floating, but doesn't have the engineering base down. Doesn't have upgrades going. He's got Stim finishing up in a moment's time. The pushing power of Apocalypse is kind of limited, especially with a spine crawler out here too. But of course, he doesn't know about this, and a little bit curious on how far he wants to take this little hit squad. Queens are not going to quite be able to hold off like they could against Reapers, so they'll still have to be careful with those. It could elevator up to the main if this proves to be completely not worth his time, or just push into the natural, I guess. Either way, I think Apocalypse should be okay to poke. I don't know how much he wants to invest in this. Meanwhile, we do have some links trying to slam into the wall here that Apocalypse is setting up at home. Engineering bay on the wall. This will make the wall a little bit sturdier, but of course you don't want to lose like 3 upgrades when they're halfway through researching. Seeing too many queens and way too much of a spine crawler to deal with, decides not to fully engage this initially, backs up, forces some transfuses around that ramp, and unfortunately the transfuses are a little bit better than the medevac as far as healing goes, so forced to back up. All the Marines alive though, worth noting, so could try to drop into the main. Lots of dead space to heal up before units can react. Baneling Nest is about to finish up too, so any sort of Marine pressure is really not going to be that threatening here for Impact. Just an annoyance for now. Okay, well, medevac might go down 14 health. It got a little bit scary there for a moment. In the meantime, what's great about Apocalypse doing this is while he's not getting a lot done, he's keeping Impact from pushing. Like, these Zerglings are going to be sitting in the main for a moment or two, you know, waiting to see where the drop comes back. And that's what's exactly happening here. Instead of pushing across the map, seeing the third, picking off SCVs and what have you. The tank positioning here is kind of cool. It does cover most of the natural entrance points, but unfortunately doesn't cover much of the third base. I like the choice to get a tanker too. It provides a lot of extra range bonus, and of course safely nestled on top of the cliff isn't worried about Zerglings, but again, I'm really worried about these engineering bays. They are incredibly exposed, and for Apocalypse, if Banelings, hell, forget Banelings, if Mutalisks just swarm in, some Zerglings attack that front doorway, and you're like 90% through 3-3 and you lose it, you're gonna regret that entirely. Cute little Overlord snipe here. Looks like the Widowmine finally gets cleaned up, but of course it wasn't doing too much. The Queens were soaking those hits and transfusing through it. The drop was of course brought back home to repair up, heal up, and go back for round number 2 in a moment's time. Apocalypse still just trying to be active on the map. Combat Shield's still not done yet. So taking engagements versus Baneling's kind of out of the question. Losing that 10 health, you're just going to die to splash damage that much quicker. Impact's got this under control though. His half of the map he's got under lock and key. Apocalypse is not getting anywhere without being scouted. Overlords are everywhere, creep is where they're not, and of course these queens are ready to mobilize at a moment's notice. So even though, get some Banelings over here from Impact, not a big deal, but getting 4 Banelings, or reducing the amount of Banelings that can attack you is always a good thing. Might be able to cancel, if not kill this. Cancel does go off. And of course, Zergling storming in will do nothing against the medevac. Spire's finally finishing up here. A bit of a strange game. It's a little bit delayed for both players, and that's okay because it's I don't know, that stranger opening, I guess. Apocalypse has got a lot of siege tanks spread out. I love the spread on these, by the way. The bunker oftentimes comes up here between the gas and the mineral lines, but I guess wants to protect his geyser for later on. I see with a question mark. It's kind of curious. You do watch a lot of different Terran players play on maps like Heavy Rain, like Daedalus Point. Well, let's be honest, nobody likes playing on Daedalus Point, but one of the things is the third base always has a very unique style of defense. Some people will go as far as putting planetaries down. Like I said a moment ago, some people put the bunker more over here to like fully wall this off with the help of the geyser, but instead opts to just wall off this whole left side. So still vulnerable from the front, but not by much and not a big deal. You can always knock down the rock tower in a worst case scenario. I do find it interesting. I don't know if it's just lack of desire. Oh no, the banelings! Oh, bit of a hit there. Does take Apocalypse to drop out. I was gonna say, between Habitation Station and this map, a lot of people don't really utilize the rock towers, and I'm wondering if it's just people aren't aware that they exist yet. They do kind of look like they're just part of the terrain, and I mean, A, that's kind of the point of the aesthetics of the map, but B, because of this, I think a lot of people haven't realized that that's an option or availability. And a couple changelings in the main scout the siege tanks, as well as the marines coming out, so he knows that he's clear to move in with the mutalisks. The marines are all over here on the map, unfortunately. One turret will deter this for now, but it's not going to stop this dead in its tracks. It looks like Apocalypse, with dedication, will even try and repair his refinery. Not something you see too often. There's a lot of times Terran players will let this either die or burn down and clean it up later by building a new one. But we'll catch a couple more Mutalisks here. I love that he's trying to keep Impact's Mutalisks under control. I mean, Impact's could eventually escape with these, but this wasn't like he got in, killed 10 SCVs, and got out scot-free. He killed like nothing and got out just barely, even losing a Mutalisk on the retreat. Other side of the map, though, Impact is just swarming up quite nicely. Baneling speed will be finished in a moment's time. He's got a massive ground army. For Apocalypse, okay, he's going to knock down this rock tower. For Apocalypse, this is where it gets a little bit scary, because engaging those Banelings across the map means you have time to rebuild your reinforcements at home and be ready for round number 2. But if Impact brings all the Banelings to the third base and Apocalypse has to engage over here, on one hand he'll have the siege tanks. Fantastic. On the other, he's not going to have the time to reproduce before the Zerglings are already on top of his production, already on top of his mineral line. Looks like Mutalisks are going to wall of Marines. Backs up immediately. Meanwhile, on this side of the map, a Broad Zergling. Oh, this is so cool out of Impact, guys. Look at the vision this gives. He knows he can't keep an Overlord here, so he sees this going down. Tanks do siege up, perhaps a little bit too late. Marines do need to spread like crazy, but the Banelings are just flooding right on through. Tanks are taken out like they're absolutely nothing at all, and Medivacs are in full retreat. 3 siege tanks behind the depots will hold the line, and Apocalypse saves himself from a very gruesome defeat. Not in the game, but in that battle. But of course, you look at Impact's resources lost, it doesn't look as good. You wonder, like, he won that engagement, he pushed Apocalypse into his base. Let's not forget, when Banelings die, they're gone for good. So you kind of trade out almost a 1-for-1 scenario, but for a Baneling, you kind of have to trade out like 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 to really make it effective. So in big collides, Mutalisks are going to pick off that Medivac, losing one of the Mutalist fort though, but that's okay. Marines are kind of sacrificial. I love the Thor being incorporated into this. Baneling Mines, man, Apocalypse knew what was up. Baneling Mines, of course, are a really cool tactic. They've been used for a long time by players like Impact, Masan, etc., but of course got really popularized with the whole Bomber versus Scarlet series, so you see them a lot more often nowadays. One scary thing here for the Thors, it doesn't have the best AI targeting. If there's Mutalisks above it, clumped up, or there's 10 Lings in front of it, it'll shoot the Lings instead, which is really frustrating. So Apocalypse has to be on top of his control. Oh no! The depots were down! Oh, actually, fortunately, the siege tanks were sieged up, though, so you will minimize losses here. This is the difference of all of his SCVs going down. Still might lose a lot of them. That Baneling tries to connect, but looks like Apocalypse is pressing the issue over here and has to take a fight, focusing on these Mutalisks. Loses most of the Marines, loses the Thor, and the tank goes down too. So whether it's at home or across the map, Apocalypse caught with his pants down twice. Mutalisks going to try and clean up the Medivacs, but won't be able to get the free kills that they want. There are Marines stimmed and ready available. Again, I love the use of this Broad Zergling. Even though it was cleared up earlier along with the Baneling lines, it's still providing vision. He knows he can't keep an Overlord here. The Overlord will be picked off so quickly. Why could he see that tank? Apocalypse does have pretty good saturation on this base mining. Looking to try and take a fourth, but again, the problem presents itself with this map where the fourth base is always going to be incredibly exposed, so a planetary going to be the likely choice here. SCVs! Oh god!
Mega kill.
Get destroyed by that Baneling hit. And I know that wasn't the appropriate use, but I had to pop it down because, oh my god, that Baneling connection. Apocalypse, of course, one big thing you guys will notice, oh, another Medivac gets picked up, is, well, he's been controlling the Mutalisks. He's unfortunately kind of given way to the Zerglings and the Banelings. He's not been able to get to that max point in this game, and Impact has been sitting on max for a long time. He's got a bank going for him. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases. Hell, he could probably try and take one of the 6th ones in the middle of the map if he wants, but kind of a ballsy move. Beetle's going to try and use the terrain against our Terran play here to get around this, but of course the Marines already stemmed towards the natural, should be here to respond, and Impact does have to be careful he doesn't get caught by this. There's a lot of area to hide around here. but getting out of the main is not always a guaranteed opportunity. But Apocalypse does not have a hell of a lot of missile turrets down, so should be able to escape with the majority of these Mutalisks. Even doing some damage on the way up, picks off the reactor. That's going to limit medevac production. Not a fun thing to deal with. Ultralisk Cavern is being created behind this too, so Impact is not looking to stay on this, 2-2 Mutalisk Baneling split for the whole game. He's got 3-3 on the way. Adrenal Glands. He'll have the Ultralisk Cavern for the ultimate tech swap, but of course, you never want to reveal that too soon. The idea is like your opponent's maxed out on Marines, so you come in and catch them off guard, but there's no Marauders. This Planetary Fortress takes a baneling hit while we're watching the Mutalisks. I'm sorry about that, guys, but of course it does stand to see another day. Huge mass of units over here on the left side of the map, too. There are those depots down, but this is depots versus banelings. We all know how that fight goes. Still chasing the Mutalisks in the main. Great diversionary tactics here. Depots are down. Oh, Apocalypse must have had a heart attack there for a second. Couple of Mutalisks get picked off on the way out. Even the Overseer falls. This turret, best turret. But okay, Apocalypse's planetary has been repaired up. He's just trying to get in this game, but the problem is, now he's getting closer to max. He's still got no map control under his foot, which, let's be honest, is kind of typical for a Terran player. There's usually a lot of creep spread, and they start pushing back through it, and then they start trying to drop and get your opponent off guard here and there. Impact's got, again, I love these Broad Zerglings. This is such great scouting information. I think Apocalypse is expecting banelings in these chokes, but he's accidentally finding the scouting Zerglings, which is really nice. Pushing all the way northward, though, leaves his base somewhat undefended. A small amount of banelings will break through the wall. Bunker's going to try and take a couple of these out, too. But Apocalypse, oh, his siege tank is not in siege mode, so this may not go so well. Banelings do get used up primarily on the wall, so the SCV is trying to retreat out of this. Should be able to live to see another day. While this is going on, of course, Apocalypse will clean this up. Pushing over here to the top right corner of the map. Siege tanks are in a pretty good spot. The Ultras, however, are finally revealed. And Apocalypse is going to be a little upset he doesn't have more Marauders, but that's okay, because right now he's just got to deal with the Banelings. Siege tanks will barely live through that Baneling collision. And the Ultras are going to fall back for a moment's time, but there's still fungal growth that could go down. Medevacs need to be incredibly careful, and the Ultras are going to shred these Marines to bits lest he picks up and gets on out of there. Fighting around the Planetary Fortress is not a guaranteed safety option either. Ultralisks, of course, they don't kill buildings as quickly as they did back in Wings of Liberty, but they still hit for quite a lot. And the Planetary Fortress alone doesn't quite stand a chance. Typically, you'll see, I love watching mech players, by the way, because mech players are the ones that'll put like 3 Planetary Fortresses down at a time type thing. Baneling Mine does go off on those Marines. Well positioned there by Apocalypse will take a certain amount of damage out of this attack. Good fungal growth here, might be able to clean this up. Got some medevacs coming in. Ugh, looks like Apocalypse will take a pretty nasty hit there and be forced back. Triple drops though in the top right while this is going on. Both players are just insane with how much control they have over this game. There's never one thing going on at a time. It's always 3 or 4 for both players, bare minimum. A couple circlings burned over here again. Just that vision, man. He knows the wall hasn't been re-erected. He knows he could try and slam him from that side if he wants to, but not taking the risk for now. Oh, these medevacs are going to wish they were home already. More Banelings morphing in for impact, and I'm going to take a second to breathe, guys. Cool. Okay, being sick sucks. For impact, though, you gotta keep in mind, you know what? Resources lost still looking pretty good, pretty even for both players. Despite the fact that Impact's had this massive amount of map control, he hasn't secured the middle bases, he hasn't choked Apocalypse out, and his bank isn't this insane number that it should be, when you've had ultimate control for 24 minutes. More Overlords being spread out here, just going to help the creep advance even further on top of giving some actual vision and control. Apocalypse, I'm really worried about this wall. Like, honestly, this is really scary to me. Mutalisks are going to come in here. There's actually no turrets, no Marines even rallied. They're all going towards the Planetary Fortress, so we'll lose a couple of SCVs here. Tank will go down as well. A bit of a costly loss. But for Marines, of course, it's not problematic. You can sim into Mutalisks, and typically you'll get some pretty good results. Again, this turret is like the best positioned turret. I hope this thing never goes down, even if Apocalypse loses the game. This guy has been a beast. Alright, well. Awkward amounts of creep. More Baneling mines have been positioned here around the map. Apocalypse is just, you know what, it's not at all typical for this composition. A Raven would be fantastic, though. It may save lives even, but of course, really expensive and can't afford to make a second starport, much less the reactor on it, much less the investment in a Raven. Sorry guys, pardon me. Mutalisk control is darn good. He will finally kill this turret. No impact! You soulless creature! The guy in that turret had a family! With the wall finally being re-erected, unfortunately not fully walled off, will cause a lift-off here. Marine's going to try and stim forward, but does have to be careful. The Banelings are trying to roll in. They did burrow. Apocalypse saw that, and looks like this command center, which wanted to be a planetary, will die, not get canceled. Oh, this is really unfortunate for Apocalypse, who's already in a pretty desperate situation, but still, even though this is going on, still tries to drop on the other side of the map. Spine crawlers are a little too good, a little too cool. And speaking of cool, Impact, guys, making some Corruptors, making a Greater Spire, probably going to incorporate some Broodlords into his composition, which, quite frankly, will match quite nicely with the amount of Lings, Banelings, and Ultralisks. I mean, oftentimes, this is where Zerg players start losing their cool. They start focusing and making one type of unit. You know, 19 Ultralisks with no Zergling support, no Infestor support, but Impact this whole game. Take a quick look here, guys. Infestors, Banelings, Mutalisks, Corruptors, Queens, Ultras, he's got everything he needs, and they complement each other so well. Fungal Growth does go down on these Marines, but will not be able to kill them initially. The Siege Tank spread here is really nice, but I fear there's still maybe too many Ultras in this composition. But the Marines are really just keeping this army back. Baneling's going to roll in here. There's not a lot to kill, but they are grouped up. Apocalypse going to lose some SCVs here for sure. Oh, God. Losing a majority of his workers to this point. He's kind of realized like this push has got to do some damage, or he might just be out of the game. Vikings for these Broodlords, 100% out of the question. Not going to happen. You can make Marines work versus Broodlords, guys. Stimming underneath them can cause a lot of damage, but how do you stim underneath Broodlords when there's Ultralisks waiting for you? Well, apparently one of the answers is to start thinning out the Ultralisks. Where are those Broodlords? Floating through to the middle of the map. Siege Tanks. Friendly fire is going to be a hell of a thing, guys. Broodlords have finally been revealed. Apocalypse now has to worry about Ultralisks from the north. He's got to worry about Broodlords from the west. He's trying to push out on the left side of the map here. Going to try and push into the base over here. Take a look at that in a second. But the Ultralisks, of course, are going to chase down these Marines. Banelings get the connections they need, and Apocalypse is going to have to tap out. Good game is called, and in this best of 3, game number 1 will go to Axiom's Impact.